All right, it's Sunday, August 2018. Interviewing my mom, Nancy Marler, here on August 19th. I guess I should say that. Getting some family history and some things just to make sure that we have things straight. All right. Well, let's just start with you. Your full name is Nancy Ann, right? And you were born Nancy Ann Morris, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your parents were who?
Sam Arestus Morris
Arestus. Okay, see, I didn't know that.
and Irma Morris.
Okay, we don't know what Grandma's middle name was?
Hughes. She was a Hughes
She
was
was-
her maiden name.
Okay.
But
And she
I
didn't have a
don't,
middle name?
not that I know of.
Okay.
If she did, she never went by.
Now, speaking of which, now, Grandma's name is supposed to be spelled with an E, right? Irma with
Some
an E?
people spell it with an I.
Okay, but I know that on her cemetery plot there was something because they used the wrong letter or something. Did they use an I and it's supposed to be an E, or an E and it's supposed to be an I?
I don't know. It depends on, I reckon, who signed it.
Okay.
But Irma, Mama always spelled hers Irma with an E.
With an E. So it's supposed to be with an E.
Mm-hmm.
And where's Grandma buried?
Whitewater.
Whitewater. Okay. I always forget where she's buried. Okay. And you said that she was a Hughes. All right. Now you were one of seven.
Seven.
And now before that, Grandma had two that passed when they were babies. Okay. And then the oldest would have been Dorothy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'd been like it was Dorothy, Josephine,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Frank.
So Frank was older than Charles? No, Charles was older than Frank, wasn't
What just meant Charles was older than Frank.
he? Okay. Charles
So
was
it
older.
would have been Dorothy and Charles.
Okay.
And then Josephine.
Oh, okay. See, I thought Josephine was older than Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and then after Frank was Irma, then you, and then Shirley.
Right.
Shirley was the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And you were born January 7th, what?
1944.
1944. Okay, so you were born right at the end of World War II then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so now you said Grandma was a Hughes. What do you know about Grandpa's family?
Well, I knew, I guess, all of his sisters.
You did? Okay.
Let's see, there was Uncle George, and then Daddy, and Aunt Nancy, and Aunt Teal, and Aunt Polly, but some of them we were closer to than we were some of the others.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon because we lived closer,
Mm-hmm.
so we saw them more. But Aunt Nancy married and had a child that was born then.
Okay.
And Aunt Teal never married. So Daddy and Aunt Teal and Aunt Nancy and Uncle George all lived together and they farmed.
Okay.
And anyway, they had kind of made a pact that none of them were going to marry, you know. So Daddy was the first one that married.
Broke the pact.
Mm-hmm. But Uncle George joined the service.
Okay.
And Daddy got out of the service by saying, you know, he was the only provider in the family. So,
Okay. So now, were you named after your Aunt Nancy, or was it just coincidence?
mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're now Grandpa's people were Irish. Do you know?
I'm not sure, but I'm assuming that.
Okay. But none of them had like an accent that you remember or anything?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Now, and Grandma's people, you said that she was a Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know she had some sisters, right? She had, wasn't Aunt Pess Or do I have that name
Yeah,
wrong?
Aunt Bess.
That's Grandma's sister, right?
And Aunt Dan,
Okay.
and Aunt Lou.
Okay.
I guess that's the only ones that I knew.
Okay. So she had at least three brothers and sisters.
She had a brother too, John Hughes.
John. Okay. All right. And were all of them from Alabama, from this area, or?
Yeah.
Okay. And all of Grandpa's people were from this area then too. Okay. And then.
And I'm assuming it was over around Goodman.
Okay.
And the reason that's where they went to church. And they wouldn't have been able to went far with no car,
So then they might be buried out there.
They are.
Possibly. They are. So they're buried somewhere in Goodman.
Goodman.
Okay.
And I just while ago told you Whitewater.
Well, you just told me that Grandma was buried out in Whitewater. Is she buried at Goodman? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her and Daddy and the two babies.
Okay. Now Whitewater, is that where I went?
Fine.
Is that where I went to church when I was a kid?
Some of the time.
Okay. Wise's Mill. That's the place where we went to church when I was a kid.
Okay. You went past Whitewater, and then you made a left on another little dirt road,
Okay.
and that was where that church was.
Okay. 'Cause, you know, like I had memories, but you know, when you're a kid, everything all those memories run together, and you misconnect things.
Well, evidently you do when you get older too, but for some reason, because the rest of us were buried at Whitewater, Momma chose Goodman. Of course, Daddy was going to go wherever Momma went.
Yeah. Well, that's where her babies were buried. Was that wherever she's buried is where her babies were buried, and so that's Goodman, not Whitewater. Okay. All right.
Most of the Morses now are buried at Whitewater.
Okay. So if I go looking for any of that, I'll find it. There. Okay. Let's see. Now, you said that whenever you were little, because Grandma had, a lot of kids, that the system was that the kid who was like one or two older was the one that was responsible for you. And so.
Well, I don't know. Dorothy was the oldest one, so she caught the brunt of most all of it.
Yeah.
That's the reason she hated to see Mama have another baby.
So she played part in raising you. Okay. Now she's a good bit older than you though.
Yeah, she was 80 when she passed away.
Okay. So that meant she was in her high teens when you were a kid.
Yeah, I can remember being really, really young and going to her room, and she was laying across the bed crying about something. Daddy would let her do something she wanted to do, so she was crying, and she had on those what used to be popular brown and white tie-up shoes. I don't know what they were called. And they were real popular then. They'd come back in style once since then. All the girls thought they had to have them.
So now I know that you and Irma were always real close when you were growing up, and I've seen pictures of the two of you, and when you were little, you guys were so close. At least in the pictures that I saw, you guys were so close in size that someone could have thought that y'all were the same age. And I remember you telling me that Grandma used to make you guys dresses out of flour sacks.
Right. She'd try to get enough sacks of the same design, so she'd get enough to make the dress.
So the flour sacks had designs on them? Okay.
Yeah.
So they had like a pattern and stuff?
Yeah. And like I said, they, just like with everything else, I guess monthly, they'd get in new flour, so you was liable to not get the same pattern
So you might with a dress that was half one pattern, half one
No,
another?
she didn't. She didn't ever do that. Somewhere else, she always ended up getting it.
Okay. Let's see. Now, now you've told the story before of Uncle Frank accidentally shooting Uncle Charles. What do you remember about that?
What I actually remember, or what really happened.
Okay. Well, what happened and what you remember?
Well,
Works.
all I know is Charles was about 16. Frank was a lot younger than he was. And Charles was bad to go off hunting after he would work in the field all day. He'd take his rifle and go hunting. He always carried a 22. And anyway, Frank would see him coming back to the house, so Frank would run down the road to take the rifle home for him. And that particular day, he told Charles to stick 'em up. And Charles was just raising his hands like this when that bullet went through his wrist and then into about an inch from his heart. They never tried to remove it either. But anyway, in the service, they asked Charles, "Did you know you have a bullet in your heart, in your chest?" And Charles said, "Yeah, I know I have a bullet." But it was so close to his heart they couldn't remove it.
And Charles was Army.
Charles
and
was
Frank.
Navy.
Okay, so he was Navy too,
Mm-hmm.
and Frank was Navy. So
Right.
they were both Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In fact, I have Charles's, I don't know what you call it, discharge papers.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Well, what I remember most about Uncle Charles before he had a stroke was he was just always really sweet to me, and he used to always call me baby. I remember that. And I remember when I was a kid, I would sit in his lap and I was fascinated with his tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had little stars right here on
Yeah.
his hands,
Yeah.
right here in the thumbs, and I
Uh-huh.
remember that.
And the bluebirds was right here.
Yeah.
And the black tiger.
Yeah, and he had a black pants on his leg, and I think he had something on his forearms too. I think he had some other sort of birds. Maybe they're eagles on his forearms. But I just remember the little stars on his hands when I was a kid, and I would sit in his lap and I would just look at them.
Well, the way he got those now wasn't, I don't think, by choice. When he was in service, you know, the service guys, they let him off in different places where they was at. And I think he was over in Hong Kong or someplace like that. And they were all drinking. So most of the servicemen that did party and drink did come home with tattoos. Because they didn't know what they were doing.
That happens. It still happens today.
Mm-hmm.
Most bases, right when you first get off base, there's almost always a tattoo shop like right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of guys do that. A lot of guys get a tattoo in every place that they get stationed, and it's just kind of a rite of passage. And I guess they were no different. But now Frank wouldn't dare do that because Frank was too pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Frank always considered himself too pretty. I could tell that even when he was an older man.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't going to dare mark himself up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Mama cut his hair one time. He just wanted his, what do you call these things that come down?
Sideburns?
Yeah, he just wanted her to trim the sideburns a little bit, just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And she took and cut that side, shaved that sideburn from up here down. And he went and looked in the mirror, and Lord, he had the biggest fit you have ever seen in your life. And he wouldn't let her cut the other side. So him and Charles had some silk-colored hats that was all different colors. I don't know where they got it, the carnival, I reckon. But anyway, Frank wore that hat on that side of his head till his side grew back out.
Wow, that's wanting the sideburn really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Frank married Iris.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where did he meet Iris? I'm
trying to remember. I guess it was in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay.
because I know that's where they lived and they got married. He was in service when he met her and married her.
Oh, because he's probably stationed out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know there's Nellis Air Force Base out there, and they might have Navy people out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, well, I guess I need to backtrack and go back to growing up in Elba. Y'all used to live off Smith Avenue, right? Grandpa's farm, or was it out that way?
Yeah, it was actually closer to. It was off of Herman Trigger's Drive.
Okay.
And Reeves, Albert Reeves was one of our neighbors up that way. In fact, on that particular road, it was just us and Albert Reeves. And Daddy used to go up there in the evenings and always read the paper. They got the paper. And so us kids would go with him. And that was where I saw my first television at. Elvis Presley, the first night he was on TV, we got to see it up at Albert's.
Oh yeah, I remember you told me you guys walked down to the neighbor's house to watch it because everybody knew it was coming on.
Yeah.
So you got to see that.
Daddy just thought it was scandalous, just the way he was doing.
A lot of people did. A lot of people considered it scandalous.
And now, what would Daddy think?
No, he wouldn't know what to think now. Okay, and now you said when you were a kid that you guys had to pick cotton right there with Grandpa, and you tell stories of how. Why exactly did you guys sleep on the cotton before you took it to market?
Yeah, you had to do that because people would actually bring the mules and hook it up to your wagon and it loaded for the gin and steal your cotton. So if we had a load ready to go out the next morning, we'd sleep on that bale of cotton. But we thought that we did, but we didn't. The kids didn't spend the night out there. I guess Daddy did. Because after we'd go to sleep, Momma and them towed us back to bed. We just thought we slept on it. But
All right. And then at some point, Grandpa lost the farm. No, he just sold it. Okay.
No, he had the farm, and he wanted to try something else. It got where it was hard for Daddy to make a living at the farm because other people had went on bigger, like with tractors and stuff. Daddy was still plowing with mules. And anyway, he leased his place out for 5 years.
Okay.
And he ran a cafe downtown, and that didn't pan out. So after the lease was up, we went back to the farm.
Okay.
And when we moved to Florida, again, the reason that Daddy gave up the farm, of course, Mama was trying to raise a bunch of young'uns and, with work all year and then not have no income at the end of the year was bad. And so she got Daddy to go to Florida and get a job. And so Dozier Roberts, who used to be the mayor here in Elba, sold the place for Daddy.
Okay. And so the way I understand it is at first, Grandpa went to Florida by himself, and he was just worked the orange groves. He picked oranges, basically what he did.
Well, no, he didn't pick oranges. They actually tended the groves themselves. They planted the trees and looked after the trees and stuff like that.
And then he sent for you guys, and everybody else went to Florida, all of you. Okay.
Yep.
No, I remember you saying something about Frank got mad because he was a football star here in town and thought that he was going to play football for a living.
Yeah, he wouldn't go back to school once we got to Florida because he was so mad at Mama. But anyway, he ended up joining the Navy. And I guess he probably, and of all things that he could have been in service, he was a barber and wasn't ever trained to be a barber. But I guess you didn't have to be. You just got it all.
If you could turn a pair of clippers on, you were a barber, I guess.
I reckon so.
Okay. Well, and that's a safe job to have, I guess. You're not going to be at war.
Well, that was to start with, but I don't know what he ever later, became. But Now Charles was on the boats that took the guys back and forth to the front where the actual war was going on. And anyway, he was in a lot more danger than what Frank was, because by the time Frank went in, there wasn't no wars, I don't reckon. We weren't fighting nobody.
Yeah, because this was, well, Korean War probably wouldn't have needed the Navy. So,
What year was the Korean War?
I have long since forgotten. Let me look it up real quick. And that was before Vietnam, because Vietnam would have been in the late 60s.
Yeah, I remember Vietnam. Don't remember much about the Korean.
Well, the Korean War was only, well, it was short. Okay, Korean War began in 1950. So that would have been before he ever joined then, more than likely. All right. Yeah, it was like 1950 to 1953. So, now I know you said that whenever Charles came back, he was hell on wheels for a while. And then, refresh remember about the story about him running over the sheriff, or nearly running over the sheriff.
Well, every weekend, the old sheriff, and we called him Bulldog, I don't know what his name was, but he would come out to the house. Now, we lived way out of Elba, and I don't know if the man had a car to drive up there or how he got up there, but every weekend he'd come up there and tell Eddie, I got your boy in jail down here. It was like they just waited in Elba to catch him when he come back through, because it was a dry county, so they couldn't drink here. But anyway, the last time I remembered hearing the man talk to Daddy, he said, I got your boy in jail down there. And Daddy says, well, what have you got him for now? He said, hell, he run over me. The man was crossing the street, and Furnace's brother was going to use the emergency brakes. They didn't have brakes on the car, and he waited a little too late to pull the emergency brake.
Probably half on purpose, too.
I don't know.
Okay. And Charles had 3 boys,
Three.
right? Danny, Dino, and Ricky.
And I need to tell you something about
Dino?
Ricky.
Oh, Ricky, okay.
You did know Ricky has had both his feet, right? You know that. Okay.
Yeah, you told me last time.
Okay.
But I heard that he was conscious now.
Really?
That's what I heard. And well, obviously you had me and Alan, and Dorothy had 3 girls.
Yes,
Dolores, Darlene, Diane, and then
Libby.
Libby. Okay, I don't remember
Libby.
Libby. Yeah, Libby was the oldest, right?
Who?
Libby was the oldest, right?
Diane's
the oldest. Okay.
And
Diane,
then Ronnie.
And then Ronnie.
And then Libby.
Okay.
And then the 2 youngest girls.
Okay. And so let's see who else. Frank had 2 girls. Paula and
Debbie.
okay. Paula and Debbie, and then Josephine had Tim, Jay, and Totsy. Okay. I've always called her Totsy, but Totsy can't really be her name. What's her real name?
Totsy.
Totsy is really her real name.
As far as I know it is.
Okay. All right. Well, that's news.
And Jelamon's name was Joseph Jelamon.
Okay.
She could figure out some of the Kirsten's names I ever saw. I don't know where she picked
Well, see,
them
I didn't know that he was. I'd forgotten his name was Joe Lehman. It'd been so long since I'd heard that name, because all I'd heard was Jay for years. So you said that right then, I wouldn't even have picked it out of a thing. it wasn't that long ago. Tim apparently reached out to me.
Yes, he sent you a Christmas card.
Yeah, wasn't that long ago.
Because I had seen him and I told him that I had always enjoyed his Christmas card that he sent every Christmas. And he says, well, I'll just send you one. But I didn't know he was going to send me all of us one. But he's such a sweet boy.
Yeah, he was always a good guy.
He had a heart attack. You know, you think about yourself getting older, but you don't think about your nephews and all getting older.
Yeah.
And so he's no longer a young boy. He's a grown man.
Well, yeah, I mean, the last time I saw him, Josephine was alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that had been 15 years ago. And he was a man then, you know, and had long since been a man. That was when he was with that lady and they had like 8 kids.
Oh, she had more than that. They sent me a postcard one Christmas. And Lord have mercy, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, she had like 8 kids because they had to drive a van because they had so many kids. They had to put them in. Okay. Yeah, they had so many kids. They had to put them in a van.
Where we're going to cook the s'mores at?
I don't know.
Because the last time we did it on the grill, it didn't turn out good.
Here, I'll pause this. All right. Let's see what else. Well, then let's move up to something a little more modern. Okay, mine and Alan's daddy is Gene Bryant. Augustus Eugene Bryant. And his people are from North Carolina. And Virginia. And do you remember his mom and dad's names?
Her name was Ann.
That's right.
And his name was Gus.
Gus. So he was Augustus as well. Okay. And Gene had some brothers, didn't he? I think I remember one brother.
Ronnie was one brother.
Okay.
And Gary was another brother.
Okay.
And then he had a sister named Vicky and a sister named Yvonne. You know, Yvonne and her husband both got killed in a car wreck.
Okay. Speaking of which, Leo, that was Dorothy's first husband. And he died in a motorcycle accident, right?
No.
Well, he had a motorcycle accident.
He had been in a motorcycle accident.
Okay.
But he, when, I don't know whose funeral we had went to, Benny Frank's, I think, and Leo was there. And he had seen everybody but me. And then later somebody told me, said Leo was looking for you, said he wanted to see you shortly thereafter he died. And of course, by then Dorothy had already married her second husband. But when her second husband died, he left her, he used to buy CDs in her name, so he left her much money in CDs.
What I remember about Leo, I remember being thin, and he always combed his hair back, had like real cream in his hair. That's what I remember about him. As a kid, you know, he had like a really thin, kind of a hook nose. And
What are we talking about?
Leo.
Sorry. It's all right. You can be on here too. You're in it.
Yeah, I remember that, and then I don't remember between Leo and Russell. I just remember Russell because we all like Russell so much. And
I guess it was Russell. After Leo.
Okay.
And then Twilly.
And Twilly, that nobody liked.
The stinker.
Yeah. All right. Now then, let's move up to then. Now you went to school. Okay. You went to school in Elva, right? When you were little.
Well, yes, except my last year, I went to Zion.
Okay.
And then from there, I went to Orange Memorial, which was a junior high school.
So that was in Florida.
And then Evans, which was a high school.
Okay.
And you know, I dropped out in the 10th and got married. And then I took my GED test after I came here, so I have In fact, I made high enough that I could have went to college on
Now, Orange Memorial, actually, I was born in Orange Memorial Hospital.
it. Yeah.
And I looked back up, and it still exists, but it's not a hospital anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's a nursing school now.
Mm-hmm.
The building still exists, but is a nursing school. It's part of a hospital nursing med school program. Because I was going to, I was needing a reprint of my birth certificate, and so I was trying to contact the hospital directly, and then found that it wasn't a hospital anymore. So I had to get with the state of Florida, and they got me a reprint.
Mm-hmm.
So you then went to Florida, and that's where you met Jean, and then Alan, me and you and Jean lived in Florida for a little while, or you guys had already split up though whenever I was born, right? But you kind of got
Yeah,
trying
but
to get back together.
we separated and then went back together for a while. But
Okay.
it just was too late.
All right, and then you moved out here. Now I'm assuming the reason that you moved out here was because Grandma was out here, Grandma and Grandpa.
Mhm. And they told me that they could help me with the children. They could not help me financially, but I could work and they could keep the kids. So that was more or less the agreement that we made. And so came down here one day, went to Clarence the following day and got the job and started to work the next day.
Okay. What I remember from the trip, because once again, only certain things stick out in your mind when you're that young, because I would have been 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
What sticks out to me was I remember the U-Haul. You had a U-Haul trailer, correct?
Yeah, but now that wasn't coming from Florida.
Wasn't? Okay.
We had moved into an apartment over there. We was going to move up out of the house with Mom and Daddy and move into this apartment. And I had bought furniture at this place.
Okay.
And I like to have never got that U-Haul backed up.
That's what I remember.
I would never pull in forward now if I was on a U-Haul. I thought I was never going to get it out. I thought I was going to have to go hire somebody to get the thing out.
No.
That was Mullen's Apartments that we were in first,
Mm-hmm.
and then moved to Kendrick's later on.
Well, no, it was the same. It was the same project.
Well, no, the back side was Mullen's.
Oh,
The
is
one
that
on the
right?
corner,
Oh,
and
I
then where
didn't
Grandma
know.
and Grandpa was, that was Kendrick's.
Oh, I didn't know there was two separate ones.
What I remember, and this could easily be wrong, was that the first place that I remember wasn't the place in the corner. I do remember the place in the corner because that's where we had the hamsters and we put them out in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we were on the
Oh,
corner.
yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
But what I remember was that the one that was like over here on the other side. That's the one where the U-Haul got backed up to. That's what I remember. I remember sitting in there and watching you try to back that trailer up. And that's why it stands out, because it was so frustrating for you.
Well, maybe I had to back it out at this project too whenever I took it to the house. Maybe I did back it twice.
Well, no, not a house. I don't remember a house. I just remember living in the projects.
Mm-hmm.
What house?
It's a house right on the corner of the back of the
Projects?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
take a little break.
So it was part of the project. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. So when we first moved in the project, we actually moved into a house that's at the edge of the project. Right?
No,
No. Okay.
no. When we first moved in, we moved in with Daddy and Mama.
Okay. Now see that I don't really remember. Or
And see-
was that where the trailer was? What the thing was? No, that wasn't where the U-Haul trailer was.
No. Okay, you see this? It's like a turn up into there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The first apartment that Mama and them lived in was right over here.
Okay, so that was theirs. Okay, that's the place I was talking about.
And then they made them move because they were doing that, and so they moved right here.
Okay.
And that old woman lived over here that you'd go over and sit with every day.
Okay. So there was an old woman that I'd go sit with her on her front porch. She had a little chair for me. Okay. And then eventually we ended up moving to the one on the corner.
Right. Which was, you come out of this circle here,
Mm-hmm.
you go down to the road, you take a left, and it was this corner apartment right
Mhm. Okay, I do remember that. And when we lived in the projects, remember we used to get mad with Alan because Alan would trade his shoes.
here. Yeah, honestly. I just bought Alan a pair of new cleats, and he come in that evening wearing a pair that was wore completely out, and they were so long on him the toes was turning up. So I knew that wasn't Alan's shoes. So I says to him, Alan, where's your shoes? And he said, well, Sammy needed them. Said he didn't have no money to buy no more. And he said, so I give them to him. I said, well, I don't have no more money to buy you any either. Are you going to wear those things that you got on? And he was, but he was at Free Garden. He would do without the gifts to someone. So I told him, I said, we're going down there and we're getting your shoes from that woman. Well, Harold wouldn't even let Patty go with us. Patty was there, Patty and Harold. And anyway, I went down there and I told the woman that Alan had given Sammy his shoes and I wanted his shoes back.
Let's see. And so we lived there for a while, and then Grandma and Grandpa continued to live there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do I have this right in that they went from living in there to living in Josephine's house, and then after Josephine's house burnt down, they went back.
Mm-hmm.
So that memory is correct.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. All right. And what?
And we had moved up here when Josephine's house burnt down. Daddy and Mom was living down there,
Mhm.
and me and you was living up here.
Okay. And so, at that point, about when would that have been? Like, what year did you guys buy this house? Do you recollect?
Oh, I could look it up.
Well, when did you and Dad get married?
Oh, 1973, I think.
Okay. Well, if you got married in '73, I would only have been 2 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and it seems to me like you guys got married when I was closer to 3. But I could, you'd be better about that than I would. Well, then,
Well, maybe it was 74 they had him there.
okay. Well, when y'all got married, now once again, my memory is very vague. Didn't we move here right after y'all got married?
Yes, we bought this house before we married.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that's that I remember. And
Eddie had seen this house in the Clipper, and he said, Nancy, I found y'all a house. And so I looked at the thing and I said, okay. So anyway, I wanted the house and I could afford the house, so we went ahead and went to see Cannon, the lawyer, and started it,
Mhm.
So anyway, after we got married, we moved in.
Okay. Now I remember coming to look at the house, but you guys may have already bought it whenever I came to look at the house. But there was nothing in it. But what I remember is at the time the tile, it was all linoleum, and it had that design, kind of looks like a
Rock.
I don't know, like an hourglass, like an inverse hourglass kind of thing, and all the tile had that design on it.
Hmm.
And I remember sitting on the floor in the living room, looking up at the ceiling, thinking how high the ceilings were. Because once again, I was little,
Mhm.
Your perceptions as
Well,
a child.
this house did look real big when we first came here and looked at it, because I don't guess it had as much furniture in
And we lived in the projects, which was probably 400 square
it.
feet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for me, and it had regular 8-foot ceilings, whereas this has 10-foot ceilings, so that made it look real big.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's see. Do you remember how much the house cost?
5,000 and something.
5,000 and something. In
I still got those booklets
Yeah,
before we made the payments.
I remember those booklets. Until you said that, I had forgotten about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the little book, and you made your payment thing, and you tore it off, and there was a stub left.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that now. When we bought the house, the yard was full of cars, junk cars.
Junk cars, and this over here was growed up in weeds and had so much glass and stuff. People, it looked to me like they just used it for a dump.
Well, that's the impression that I kind of got. It was after Tim and them grew up. This was just the property. This was part of Fleming's property or whatever, and he just drug old farm equipment, whatever he had that was broken. They didn't have a place to take it to. They just dumped it here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just know that me and you and Alan picked up glass for Lord, I don't know how.
Now, the other thing I remember is there was a great big tree in the front yard
Mm-hmm.
that had fallen down,
Right?
and we burned on it
Mm-hmm.
like every day for like 2 years.
It's like a big red oak.
It was an oak tree, okay. And we would go out there and we'd set it on fire, and then we'd put it out by the time it was time to go to sleep. And then the next day we'd set it on fire again until it was burnt down to ash.
Mm-hmm.
That's what at least that's the way I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there used to be the remnants of an old well right out here in front.
Yeah, all I know is it used to would cave in there,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept putting stuff in it and all till when you walk across it now, it don't cave in, but it may yet cave in and be a sinkhole. Who knows?
From the way I remember it as a kid, I remember Dad telling me it was an old well,
Mm-hmm.
and that y'all just filled it up. And I remember the bread truck that was out here
Mm-hmm.
for the longest time. That at one point was our
Playhouse.
playhouse, and then it was Dad's storage house. I remember an old 40s or 30s car in the yard, and somebody came and took them one day. Took 2 of them, I believe.
I called them. They because I was just giving them away for
Mhm.
time.
And
Sure did.
they came and took them. Now we still had those pecan trees, and every year y'all would let us pick the pecans, and we would use that to buy our Christmas with. And that's how we first ended up with pellet rifles, and then shotguns, and every year we'd move up and buy something else.
Mm-hmm.
With
Y'all
the,
bought that go-kart, remember?
yeah, I remember the go-kart. I didn't remember it was us that bought that. I thought y'all bought that for us.
I think y'all used your pecan money to buy your first.
Did that go-kart come from Jerry Chandler?
I don't think so.
No?
It's somebody that Harold knew.
Okay. I had in my head it was Jerry Chandler, but when I was a kid, honestly, most of Dad's friends kind of looked the same. Because you're a kid.
Mm-hmm. And you
And-
remember the gopher that was a pet gopher, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Speedy. And I do remember that. We would paint his shell, and that's how we knew if it was him whenever we'd see another gopher, is because we'd take model car paints and we'd paint on his shell. And if we saw a turtle and it didn't have that on it, we knew it wasn't him.
Well, the neighbors, if they saw him anywhere, they would even call y'all
Yeah?
on the telephone.
I don't
He
remember
was
that.
in the road on his back, and somebody called up here.
Mhm.
I don't even know who it was. Told us that Chelsea's gopher was down there on the road, so
Speaking
I
of
told one of y'all, and one of y'all went down after him.
Speaking of calling on the phone, I know when we moved in the house that it had 2 phones, but they didn't work, or at least we didn't have service.
Right.
And we didn't have phone for a couple of years, right?
Right.
And then when we did get a phone, it was party line.
Right.
I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember who all was on the party line except for the Stevens lady. I remember she was on the party line. She was mean about it.
Mm-hmm.
If we picked up the phone and she was on and we needed to use the phone,
Mm-hmm.
she'd be mean about it.
Yeah.
And I think Bobby Lucas was on that party phone. I think
Could
Ms.
be.
Lucas was on the same party line. And those are the only two that I remember. But I do remember at the time, we only had to dial the last 4 digits of the phone number. Because the L was so small. You didn't have to do a prefix or anything like that. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. And now, fresh memory. If someone called somebody on the party line, all of our phones rung, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but it rung a different amount of times.
Did it? Okay.
That's how you knew it was yours or somebody else's.
Oh, okay. So that's how you knew.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
If it rang 3 times, I don't know that mine was 3. If it only rang 3 times, I'd know it was for me. Or if it rang 4 times, Miss Stevens would know it was hers.
okay. All right. I'm still putting pieces together. And let's see. You worked at the sewing factory for much of my childhood, and then and Dad always worked at Dorsey's. But then you became. Do I have this sequence right? After there, you went to the Five and Dime store.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then from there you went to TG&Y.
No, TT&Y was in Orlando before I moved to Alabama.
No. Okay.
Oh, you are right. They built a TG&Y up here.
Uh-huh.
You're right.
That was on the road going to Troy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was a small TG&Y. It was TG&Y.
Yeah, you are right.
Because I remember that's where, because you used to work, and I don't know how long you got away with it, but Dad would, take us to the store when you were working, and we'd be in there, and we'd be playing on the video game consoles in the electronic section. I remember that.
And there was one guy that was he was an employee there, and he always wanted to play you, and you always beat him, and he just could not believe it. That you beat him every time.
I don't remember that, but I do remember they had video game consoles, and that's probably where my Atari. I know this for a fact. That's where my Atari came from. And I also remember. I remember our old TV was on a metal stand, and you had to turn it on and let it warm up for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember every now and then you would let Alan and I take it into our room, roll it into our room, and watch TV. I remember watching a show called Tony, Orlando, and Don when I was a kid in the bedroom, and just thought it was the coolest thing ever that we could watch TV in the bedroom. And I remember on Friday nights when I was little, you and Dad used to watch Dallas.
Well, you know that first TV that we bought you? I kept it down yonder in that thing for the longest, after you was married and done left home.
Oh yeah, that TV I got when I was 13 years old when I got the TV. I remember it. There are some old Polaroid pictures of me standing in front of it when you got it, and that came from TG&Y, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that came from TG&Y. And I also remember TG&Y had a house brand at the time. Polo shirts were real big, and we couldn't afford that. But you would get me the shirts from TG&Y because you could get them, at cost. And the brand was Walk On. It had a little horse on it. I remember that. And then from TG&Y, after TG&Y shut down, and they gutted that whole place out, or that side. The middle store became Harco Drugs, where I worked when I was in high school, and then next to it was the grocery store, where eventually you worked in the deli section.
You're right. See, you remember more about this than I do.
Well, by this time I was a teenager, and so that stuff, that stuff is a little more concrete than when I was younger.
Mm.
But I do remember the TG&Y because I used to go play on the video games. I used to play on the ColecoVision and the Atari. And I remember I got the Atari from there. And once again, you know, we didn't get very much for Christmas, so we usually got like one thing. But it was, you know, eventually became one big thing. And I remember that, and I remember our little Christmas tree. I remember when you worked at the Five and Dime store. I remember you would come home with the spray cans of the snow. And we'd spray it on the windows
Mm-hmm.
and on the tree too. Probably shouldn't have sprayed on the tree. I remember that.
Well, see, one year we used apples to decorate it. Y'all always decorated the tree the way y'all wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
But that year I had bought apples that had little red bows on them. And y'all went and sprayed that snow on it, and they just took the color off the apples as it slid down them.
I remember that. And I remember before you had carpet in there, back when it was still vinyl, you did have a rug. You had a green rug, and you had a black vinyl couch that Alan broke
Yeah.
the arms off of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember when you worked at the Five and Dime store, if Alan and I could stay home all day during the summer and not fight, once a week you'd bring us home something. Do you remember that?
I don't remember it, but.
You would bribe us into not tearing up the house.
Mm-hmm.
And when you worked at the Five and Dime, you would come home, and the thing that stands out is you had got us these, I guess you call it a balloon. It was like a rubber balloon with a handle
Yeah,
on it.
It had a rubber on it,
Uh-huh.
and they were real thick,
Yeah,
and they were called punch balls.
there you go. And I remember you getting us that, and I remember you bring home the balsa wood airplanes that you could spin it up, and it would take off and it would fly.
Mm-hmm.
Those things would actually fly. I remember you bring home those, but yeah, once a week, if we got through a week without killing each other, you'd bring us home something from the Five and Dime store. I do remember that. That was Bill's Bill's Dollar Store, Bill's the Five and Dime.
Bill, there was a Bill's there.
I remember that, and then eventually you ended up working at Family Dollar.
Bill's and Family Dollar both bid on the same building, and Family Dollar offered them more, so Family Dollar went in the place of Bill's.
Okay. Now, which one was it that was in the old building that's right there on the square across from the courthouse?
Oh, I don't know what the name of that was, but we used to shop there a lot.
Okay. And then we also used to shop at Bargain Town that was somewhere right around there, too.
Oh, that may have been Bargain Town.
May it? Okay.
But I remember buying Harold this shirt. Well, the reason I remember the place, Harold was always picking him out something, and whatever he picked out, you know, I bought it because I didn't want him to think he couldn't have nothing. So, this shirt said, had a hamburger on it, and the shirt said, I ate it all. And he had worn the shirt for 2 or 3 years, and somebody read it off to him, saying, I ate it all. Harold looked at me, he was so mad. He said, is that what this shirt says? I said, well, I thought you knew what it said.
This goes into the fact that Dad couldn't read.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, now, I haven't gone into Dad's people. Dad's father's name was Simon.
Mm-hmm.
Simon Marler, and what was his mother's name?
It started with an L, I can't remember now.
Lucille, Laverne. Okay. Now, was Dad's middle name actually Klinger?
Huh?
What was Dad's middle name?
Colger.
Colger. Okay, Colger.
I think so.
Okay.
Oh, I did see that name on something. So he really did have a middle name, although he always signed Harold K.
And when I was a kid, and I do know this for a fact, Dad told me a couple of times that he did not know what his middle name was. But I think it was because he was embarrassed he didn't like his middle name.
He didn't like it, but also he probably didn't know how to pronounce it.
Okay.
But what it was is when his daddy was in service, he had a lieutenant or something that he worked under, and so he named Carl after that man.
Okay. Now, just so I have Dad's story right. Okay, now Dad had 2 brothers, Fred and Robert.
Right.
2 sisters, Ann and Virginia.
Let's see. Let me see. I'm trying to remember. He had a lot more than 2.
Oh, okay. Well, the ones I remember are Ann and Virginia.
Yeah. Because we usually visited them more often.
Okay.
But right now I can't even think of any of them.
Now, Ann is the one who married
Larry.
Larry. There you go, Larry.
And you know she's dead.
Yes, what you told me. And Larry was when I was a kid. I just remember him just being a big cut up.
Mm-hmm. He always.
I don't know if he was that way with everybody else, but with us kids, he was always a cut up. And he was our scout leader, if you want to call it that, for the Royal Rangers, which was like the church. Once again, that was. I said the name of the church earlier. Where we went. Now Whitewater's
Wise's Mill.
Wise's Mill. And he was our scout leader, and he would take us camping and stuff. I remember that. And I remember Dad coming in the middle of the woods. I've told the story actually not that long ago. I told the story of how, once again, when you're a kid, your perception of things are different. But what I remember is seeming like we hiked for hours into the woods. And this was long before cell phones ever existed, so there was no calling and finding out where we were. But what I remember is us being in the middle of the night, all around the campfire, and it had to have been 9 o'clock at night, and we heard something coming through the woods. And so we all got on the opposite side of the fire from what was coming through the woods. And then Dad, just out of the we must have just been close. We must have been close to the road. Either that or Dad was just the greatest tracker of all time. Because
Larry had already told Harold where y'all was going to be at.
But how would if you told me I was in the woods off of 57, how the hell would you find it? I don't know how he found it.
I don't know either.
But he come through the woods in the middle of the night, and the way I remember it is he just said, "Are y'all doing all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, Daddy, we're fine." And he said, "All right, well, your mom was worried about you. Want me to come check on you?" And then he just turned around and walked back into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Like he showed up, like he wasn't there for 30 seconds.
Uh-huh. Well, I couldn't sleep. I'd walk the floor and go from the living room to the kitchen. And I told him, I said, Harold, I'm so worried about us kids. And so he says, well, if you will lay down and go to sleep, I'll go see about these kids. But I thought he was going to bring y'all home, but he didn't. Instead, he just saw about you, did exactly what he said. He saw y'all was all right and come back to the house.
Yeah, he came back, asked how we were. I was like, "Yeah, we're fine. We're camping out." And he turned around and just literally just walked. He was there for 10 seconds maybe, and turned around and walked back into the woods. And once again, being a kid, it just seemed like we were in the middle of nowhere. And he just found us, and then just disappeared into the night.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
So, because once again, my memories of this story are distorted from being a kid. Now, Dad's uneducated because he did go to school when he was younger, right? A little bit. And then when he was around 7 or 8, for whatever reason, I don't remember the story why, but he quit school, had to quit school from what I remember, and he went to work in a sawmill. Is that the way you remember the story?
Well, according to him now, the reason that he quit going to school, he had to help his daddy on the farm. And this was after he got older, that he was working at the sawmill.
Oh,
And
okay.
his daddy would take every bit of his money and give him about $10 of it. So I would work all week and get about $10 to spend of his own money.
What I do remember is being a kid, you know, you're convinced your parents are lying to you about how hard they had it. And I remember when I was about 13 years old, one time we were over at Aunt Virginia's house. And y'all were outside. Y'all weren't there, but Virginia, it was Virginia and I were in the house. And I saw my opportunity to catch Dad in a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Aunt Virginia, Dad told me that he quit school when he was just a little kid, and that he used to tend the farm even at night, and he worked in a sawmill. And I remember this quite well. She said he did. Aunt Virginia said one of her first memories, because Dad is older than her, she said one of her first memories is that she used to like to watch what she called the light in the field. And she said when she was older, she realized that light was Dad at 10 years old, working in the field at night. And she would watch his lantern as he plowed the mule, or he picked the crops, or did what he had to do in the dark. And she knew for a fact it was Dad and not her father that was doing it.
Well, they said, not Virginia, but, God, why can't I think of Shalita's mama's name?
Vivian, you're right. Vivian.
People told us that Vivian used to plow a mule just like a man. So see, she didn't get to go to school much either.
I remember thinking that Dad couldn't have possibly have done that because the concept, you know, because we had it easy because of you guys. Like, we were poor, but we still had it easy compared to your and Dad's life, you know. And so, in my mind, as a kid, there's no way Dad actually did that as a kid, you know. Yeah, why Dad was a strange man.
Yes, he was. He had his scarce ways, didn't he?
He did.
And once he didn't, no matter what you told him, he sure was scared of the law, wasn't he?
He was terrified of law. I was telling Jeanette that. Another one going, she didn't understand the concept. I'm like, yeah. He was convinced somehow like the cops just knew if you did something. And they would come to your house and just haul you away in chains for the least little small crime.
But he'd be driving and wouldn't have done anything wrong. And if he seen a cop,
He would freeze up.
yeah,
He would slow down to 10 miles an hour.
yeah. Which
Yeah.
would make the cops want to stop him.
He was terrified of the police. And I told Jeanette also that, like, if he drank on a Friday night, he wouldn't drive on Saturday at all, for fear that the police could just smell it on him or somehow just magically knew.
Yeah.
But Dad, you know,
But once he started taking all that high blood pressure medicine and stuff like that, he couldn't drink anymore. So it wasn't hard for him to give it up.
he did. And he quit smoking
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
It was nothing for him to quit smoking.
Yeah.
And I'll also say this, that the reason that I'm as good a father to kids who aren't mine is because of Dad. Because he never once treated me like I was not his child.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that was for the good or for the bad. Just don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Because my dad dad believed in discipline, and while he left a lot of the discipline up to you, Dad was very strict, and Dad would make us walk the line. You were not near as strict. You were strict, but not like Dad was. You were a mother, and Dad was a dad, and so things were different, you know. And so if you guys got married in '74 and moved out here, let's see, '74. It's now 2018, so that would have been 54 years ago. That can't be right. No, 44
Me
years
and
ago.
her was married about 40-something years. Or would be by now.
Yeah.
Let's call it a night, and maybe
All right.
we can take up again next time you come.
All right, sounds good. I'm going to stop that right there. Oh,